Hector Gutierrez. My role in the cystic fibrosis world is I'm the CF Center Director, a CF doctor. Alabama has one center at UAB, at Children's. The CF care, and Matt will probably agree on that, is very rigid by design. The families are not allowed too much flexibility. They need to come to the center 4 times a year. They need to come every 3 months, and that happens all across the country, all across Canada. The guidelines have been designed by doctors to help the kids, the patients, to live longer. As Dr. Wilson mentioned, in sickle cell disease, there's also significant improvement. In CF, a significant improvement is how the patient, the care is delivered, and that is, as I say to my patients, the families come 4 days. They spend 4 days in the clinic. The other 361 are for them. So they really need to manage. The benefit of the newborn screening is that patients like Telfair, who's 2 years old now, was diagnosed without any symptoms. So that's an additional challenge to the parents, to their relatives, because the child is completely healthy looking. There's no symptoms. So how can you convince their peers and their friends that there's something else that they need to do, something different? And that is where our team is not just the doctor or the nurse, it's a social worker, dietitian, respiratory therapist, the school, etc. So that is what the structure of care has been benefited by newborn screening. Before, the average was 2 or 3 years of age where the patient was having symptoms. Now they're without symptoms. So that in a nutshell, and then I will leave to Matt Myrick, who is the parents of a child with cystic fibrosis, who's 2 years old, and they live in Mobile.
Thank you. So he mentioned the rigidity. My name is Matt Myrick. Sorry, I get a little nervous talking to big groups of people. He talked about the rigidity of the program that they have at the CF clinic in Birmingham, and just a quick word on that. I actually really like the rigidity of it. It's very comforting to go up to a hospital, see an entire team of people, and leave knowing that they've not just looked at his lungs, listened to him breathe, checked oxygen levels, get a chance to talk to a social worker if there's any questions that we have, sometimes talk to a pharmacist, there's a physical therapist, respiratory therapist, and so we always feel leaving like we've gotten the best care that we could possibly receive, and that we know that Telfair is going to be hopefully healthy for the next 3 months until our next visit. So I really appreciate everything they do up there. Like you said, Telfair, we call him Telly, is his nickname, so I'll probably go back and forth between Telly and Telfair when I'm talking about him. We didn't have really any idea what cystic fibrosis was when he was born. I had heard of it, but it just wasn't something that I really had any experience with or awareness about what the symptoms were or what it meant. And Danielle, my wife, she hadn't heard really anything about it either. So we got a phone call one day from our pediatrician, and it's about 2 weeks after Telly was born, and she tells us that he's tested positive for 2 mutations of the gene that causes cystic fibrosis, the main gene that causes cystic fibrosis. And we were just shocked. And she was able to give us some information, but we didn't really know what was going on, and immediately got on the internet, started Googling, looking at things like Wikipedia, and we were horrified because a lot of that information is very outdated. And just looking at the average lifespan, 37 years at that time, it's gone up since then, just in the past 2 years. We were just scared to death and didn't know what to do. We were hoping that this wasn't real. He looked healthy. He seemed fine. So we were just really scared. Luckily, Children's was able to get us in for an appointment, I think a day and a half after we got word. And immediately when we get to the hospital and we met with Dr. Hoover in the clinic, he was very reassuring. After we did the sweat test, we go back and the sweat test showed that he was positive for CF. And Dr. Hoover just sat us down and said, this is something that we're going to manage. It's going to be fine. He's going to live a life just like you've planned for him, and you're going to live your life just like you've planned. So we felt really good after that, and we were just kind of amazed at how much attention we got. We left Fairhope, I think, at 5 in the morning to get there for that first appointment and have the sweat test, and then we left sometime around 4:30 in the afternoon. So it was a full day of talking to people and being at the hospital, but it was a really comforting experience, though, too. I mean, going from a position where we just didn't know anything about what this condition is, and then feeling like we had really received an education that day and were a lot more comfortable. Also that day they went ahead and gave us enzymes. So he had not been digesting food really. He was having lots of bowel movements over the first 2 weeks of his life, and we didn't really know why, and we hadn't been too concerned about weight gain at that point, but immediately there in the office, we gave him enzymes with applesauce. He had a bottle. He seemed immediately satisfied and was probably the happiest he had been in at least a week. So that was another comforting part of that initial experience. On the way home from Birmingham, we talked to somebody who, their child, who is about 20 now, also goes to Birmingham to receive care for CF, and we had just been connected with this woman through a mutual friend. And before the days of mandatory screening for CF in the state of Alabama, her son wasn't diagnosed until 6 months, and at 6 months old, he weighed 10 pounds. So we really knew then, like, just how lucky we were that we were able to catch this so early. The past 2 years, we felt very lucky. I think being diagnosed early and beginning care so early. Telly was hospitalized twice in his first year, once in the fall and then once in the winter. Since then, he's been pretty healthy. He's tested positive for Pseudomonas a couple of times, and it took several treatments to eradicate that, but it's been eradicated for, I think, the past close to a year now. I mean, I think we're getting close to a year, so that's been good. But really, once we got used to the therapies, each day we do percussive chest therapy, which is basically hitting him on his chest, on his sides, on his back for about 15 minutes. Before that, he has an albuterol inhaler, hypersaline treatment through a nebulizer that takes about 15 minutes to do. So it's about an hour a day of different therapies in total. We do everything twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. And now that we've gotten in a rhythm with it, it's not difficult. We sit down, he watches a show, he and his sister kind of argue over whether we're going to watch Octonauts or Princess Sophia. And you know, the winner in the morning is the loser in the afternoon on that. But now that we're in a rhythm with it, I mean, we do therapies around family. A lot of times we'll go over to my parents' house for dinner. We do therapies over there. We've got lots of cousins that run around, and they kind of see what's going on. They ask questions, and it's become just a really comfortable thing for all of us. I know Telly gets a little bothered by it, but he's gotten to where he'll hold the nebulizer cup by himself, and he'll sit there and watch television. So we've just felt very lucky. I mean, really, since his last hospitalization, that he's been healthy, and that we've felt like we're in just such a rhythm with things. It was kind of a shock at first, and it seemed like every time that we went up for a clinic visit, there was something new that we had to learn to deal with. But we felt very lucky over the past couple of years. So that's really a lot about our daily life. He takes enzymes still with applesauce before each meal, and he's had great weight gain, so we've been really lucky with that too. So yeah, we're just very thankful for the newborn screening, and it's meant a whole lot to us. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you.